One of the cool things about being back for We Are Weekend is interacting with folks from different classes, from different walks of life, from different generations. And it's just awesome to hear their stories as far as their experiences when they were here on campus. I had a chance to actually go and tour Beaver Stadium. I had a chance to go to WPSU and see how they go about their daily activities to get folks involved in their operations.
Penn State is really a pivotal place for both my wife and I. We met here. I feel like I grew up at Penn State. It just broadened my horizons, both academically and also as a person. And being involved with different activities on campus really molded me into the person that I am today. We have 5 kids. So for us, trying to get away and do something just the 2 of us is really tough. So it's really great that we can have our kids with us and participate. They've had a great time participating in the different tours and activities, enjoying some of the food, and having them here as part of our family has really been able to allow us to enjoy the weekend, not just my wife and I, but our entire family together.
Being a pioneer is really special because it was like getting an award, and the award was just for being 50 years a graduate. But actually tonight I get to put the medals on some of the new pioneers, and it's passing the torch. And that's very special, and We Are Weekend allows me to do that for them, and hopefully they'll get enough out of We Are Weekend that they'll come back and do the same thing in the future years.
We thought it'd be really cool to bring alumni tour guides back to give tours with current students and really get that alumni and also current student perspective to be able to share all of our stories. And for us on the tours, it's been really fun because we're also hearing stories from other Penn State alumni. Even if they weren't tour guides, they have their own sort of understanding of campus and little stories from different areas. So for me, it's been just so great, that synergy of sort of stories and everyone sort of having their love for Penn State and being able to share that. For me, coming back to Penn State is so much about reliving old traditions, but also creating new ones. And I really thought coming back for We Are Weekend would be a great opportunity to start a new tradition at Penn State.
We are!
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for a virtual hike of Penn State Behrend's Wintergreen Gorge. The Wintergreen Gorge is a nearly 4,000-foot long, 250-foot wide chasm at the end of Penn State Behrend's campus. The gorge is estimated to have been formed more than 11,000 years ago during the last ice age. Today, the gorge is a popular destination for students and community members to hike and relax in nature, and it is also used as part of Penn State Behrend's open lab for student research. Before we head into the tour, I would like to introduce today's speakers. Dr. Sherri Mason. Dr. Mason is the Sustainability Coordinator for Penn State Behrend, is a professor of chemistry and leading researcher in freshwater plastic pollution. Dr. Mason has been featured in hundreds of mass media articles, including the BBC, The Guardian, The New York Times, and more. Her work formed the basis for the Microbeads Free Water Act, which was signed into law by President Obama in December 2015. Dr. Christopher Shelton. Dr. Shelton is an assistant professor of clinical psychology at Penn State Behrend. As part of his research and service endeavors, he founded and serves as the director of the Virtual Augmented Reality Lab. His research interests include ADHD, sluggish cognitive tempo, emerging adulthood, digital mental health, and internet-based interventions, all of which he hopes to incorporate into his work at the VAR lab. Marcus Jacobs. Marcus is heading into his 4th year as a business economics and international business dual major at Penn State Behrend. Marcus is a Behrend Lion Ambassador, a Black School of Business Ambassador in the Beta Gamma Sigma Business Honor Society, and a student lab project manager for the VAR lab. And I'm Kristen Comstock, the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations. I will be today's moderator. We hope to have time for questions at the end, so please use the Q&A on the right side of the page to post your question, and we will try to answer what we can. First, I wanted to share a bit of history about Penn State Erie, the Behrend College. In 1948, Mary Behrend donated her 400-acre estate to Penn State to honor her late husband, Ernst Behrend. Ernst and his brother Otto were co-founders of the Hammermill Paper Company in Erie, which later became part of International Paper. Mary and Ernst, with their children, lived in a home on the plant grounds, and they wanted an escape from the paper plant's noise, dust, and fumes, and a country location to house their horses, goats, and dogs, play tennis, and swim. They began acquiring farms and properties in Erie County, including the Wintergreen Gorge, where they would ride their horses. They eventually acquired 400 acres to build their home. The Glen Hill farmhouse was their country home. Now it houses our administrative offices. There is an interesting history about the construction of the Glen Hill farmhouse, and our Director Emeritus of the John M. Lilly Library, Richard Hart, wrote a book entitled The Glen Hill Farm, The History of a Family Estate, which details thousands of letters between the Behrends and the famous architect R. Brognan Oakey. Now Penn State Behrend is more than 850 acres. We offer 4 associate degrees, 38 baccalaureate degrees, and 5 master's degrees. Actually, this aerial view is a bit outdated, as we've added a residence hall kind of up here, which is very close to one of the trailheads of the Wintergreen Gorge. This aerial shot also doesn't include our new soccer complex, an old golf course, the Federal House, which is currently under a major renovation and addition construction, and the Logan House, which is another historic home used for offices and special events. Even with our 5,000 students bustling on campus, Behrend still maintains the natural beauty and the peaceful serenity of the original country retreat, in part because of the Wintergreen Gorge, which lines our campus on the eastern and southern ends, as you can sort of see in this photo where there's a gap in the trees, and in part due to the beautifully maintained landscape. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Arboretum at Penn State Behrend, which contains many of Erie's most notable and unusual trees, with more than 200 species and trees from all 50 states, which some do need to be located inside, as I don't need to mention the infamous climate of Erie, Pennsylvania. And actually, the Arboretum unofficially began with Mary and Ernst Behrend. The couple traveled extensively, acquired many exotic trees, and filled the property with many species. Notable examples continue to thrive on campus today, including several species from Asian countries. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mason to get us started in learning more about the Wintergreen Gorge.
Thank you so much, Kristen. That was a great introduction to campus. Anytime I talk about the gorge, I like to start with the fact that the work for the restoration that we're going to present to you today started long before me. So I always want to make sure that I pay tribute to those who started this effort that I just simply inherited. And so I'd like to show our steering committee. As Kristen mentioned, the gorge lies along Penn State Behrend. So here, is our campus, and if along the southern end of campus is Interstate 90, which is usually how people get here. So I like to point out that north is actually down in this picture just because that made more sense to me. And then you would come off of 90 onto the Bayfront connector, and that's how you get to campus. Well, the Wintergreen Gorge lies on the eastern edge of campus and is part of campus. So this is a huge resource for our students, for our faculty who teach within the gorge, as well as for the community who enjoy the gorge. As Kristen mentioned, the paths that are in the gorge were originally created by the Behrends because they would walk their horses, go horseback riding, and people continued those trails The problem is, Kristen, on the next slide, that, I think I was going to talk a little bit more about the gorge, but you did that, so I apologize. So on the next slide, we can see the many hundreds of miles of trails that have been created from horseback riding trails and then people following them. A lot of times though, when people follow trails, those trails are created by water. And so if we click to the next slide, you see that a lot of the gorge is very steep. And as a consequence of people kind of creating their own trails, we have a lot of erosion issues within the gorge. So our next few slides, and Kristen, you can just kind of click as I talk, really shows some of the erosion issues that we have within the gorge, where you know, basically the trail is washing away. You know, trees become susceptible. It also affects the vegetation and other, you know, flora and fauna that exist within the trail. And so about, I think about 10 to 15 years ago, there was an effort started, like I said, by people before me to really look at the gorge and these erosion issues and think about how we could restore the gorge to preserve it for future generations. And that's what we'll be presenting to you all today. And from here, I'm going to turn attention over to talk about the technology that we're using for this.
Hi, everyone. Before I get into a little bit about the technology, I just wanted to, again, take a moment to acknowledge our amazing team of faculty and students who are all involved in the VAR lab, and definitely without whom none of this would be possible. So all of the remarkable work that they're doing is what you're about to see some of that this afternoon. Or this morning. I'd also like to thank our sponsors and our community partners. Again, they play a pivotal role in helping to enable our students to interact with the community and with industry and gain experience and exposure for when they go on post-graduation. So thank you as well. So a little bit about the lab, just real quick. We are a pretty new lab. We're a student and community-oriented research lab focused on immersive experiences within a number of different realms here at Penn State Behrend. We are located within the Knowledge Park Center, which is a research and development area here on the edge of our campus, which is really great because it allows for easy integration of our student researchers here with local industry that's also located at the Knowledge Park Center, and these local businesses and students and research centers like ourselves can work together easily with from such a place, which has been really nice. Overall though, so the VAR lab is currently focused on 4 key initiatives, and I'll go over those real quick with you. So our initiatives, the first and foremost is probably education. Within education, we are looking at integrating immersive technologies into education, all sorts of educational experiences. So working to create educational content for students, working with students and teachers to talk about how to bring the hardware, the technological hardware into the classroom, and working with students and teachers just to understand the technology, both in terms of as a consumer, but also as a producer, so that they're familiar with how to build for this technology, which we'll see more and more in the coming future. So that's one of the main focuses we have. Another initiative is digital preservation and recreation. And this looks at a lot of our work here is trying to create 3D structures that may no longer exist. So for instance, the Fort LaBeouf in VR down below, or trying to preserve historical sites, monuments, artifacts, whatnot that do exist, but may be subject to change or erosion or degradation. And so you can see the LiDAR scan of the Federal House, which is by all reports, one of the first buildings or one of the first brick buildings in Harbor Creek Township. Another of our initiatives is, and one of my personal passions as a clinical psychologist, is promoting mental health and well-being through digital initiatives. So one of the ways we do that is through creation of digital content or creation of digital wellness apps, such as Serene, you can see here on the screen. This was an app we developed in collaboration. It was an Innovation Commons idea, and we worked with them to create all of the content for this app so that it can be used by residents of Erie County during the COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, industry. So looking to try and address issues within the workplace, such as training gaps or finding ways for this technology to be used in the workplace, such as here you can see us doing LiDAR scans that can be used, LiDAR scans of forensic crime scenes for use in forensic investigations. So those are our 4 key initiatives. And the way we work within those initiatives, we use a number of different technologies. Today, you'll see a couple of those in action. In fact, here is our immersive camera equipment that we have, and also our spatial audio equipment you can see on that bottom right picture right above the camera, allows for high fidelity imagery and videos to be captured to recreate what you're about to see this afternoon, or this morning again. So I don't want to take up too much time. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Marcus, who will take you on an immersive tour through the Wintergreen Gorge, located right here on our campus at Behrend.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna start sharing my screen here, and let me start by saying I am super excited for this. This is really, really cool that we're able to do this in the technology. Technically, like in terms of the technical specifics and everything, this is the first time we've run something like this. So when we eventually give you the link at the end, which we will, we don't know how it will work. So fingers crossed it will go well. If it doesn't work for one reason or another, make sure to come back at the end of today, maybe when the demand has receded a little bit, or check back tomorrow. And when you get it, share it with friends. If you are from Erie, check out the Wintergreen Gorge. If you know people from Erie, send it to them and say, if you haven't gone yet, you got to. So let's get started right with Cooper Road Trailhead. And right off the bat, one thing to mention is this is all 360. So you are able to spin around and look completely around and see all kinds of things. And as you see, there are icons and whatnot with information bubbles. So I will begin with Dr. Mason.
So starting with the Cooper Road Trail, while the Wintergreen Gorge has existed for a while, people would park here just along the side of Cooper Road, which is really unsafe. If you've never been on Cooper Road, it comes down at a sharp angle. There's a turn. As a mother, I just couldn't believe that was the parking area, and people bring their kids down here. It's really unsafe. So we had to take down a few trees to build this 18 parking space lot, which includes 2 ADA accessible parking spaces. The lot is angled in such a way that at the very center, we have one of our first kind of restoration features, a rain garden. And so the intention here is that all of the runoff from the parking lot goes into this center space and is purified through natural kind of flowing through the ground before making its way into 4 Mile Creek. And we have over here too the icon for pack it in, pack it out. We had a number of community meetings as we were engaging in this endeavor. People mentioned frequently that they wanted to see more trash cans along the trail. While we understand that, this also creates maintenance burdens for the campus. That would mean that we would need maintenance staff to be walking the trail every day in order to empty any bins that we put into place. So instead of creating these trash bins along the trail, we are really doing this restoration under the idea of pack it in, pack it out. What you bring with you, you should take back out. We do have 1 trash can here at this trailhead and at each of the other trailheads. But the intention really, and more signage will be going up, is that whatever you bring in, you take with you. We mentioned the ADA parking spaces. The entire trail for restoration phase 1 and 2 will be completely ADA accessible, which is really exciting. If anybody on this call has parents or loved ones that have difficulty with mobility, you understand how difficult it can be to find spaces that you can go out in nature. And so really excited that this provides some accessibility space for those that have those kind of mobility issues. You can also see here, we have a lot of signage and more signage will be going up. So this is our main kind of welcome trailhead signage showing you the entire trail that is slowly being restored. We have just completed phase 1 and we'll show you where phase 1 ends, and phase 2 will begin later on in the talk.
Awesome. So now we're going to be heading up to the creek, and just for a show of functionality of how some of the buttons work, what you can do is you just click the trail map right here and it will come up with the map you had just seen on the signage right there. And then we're currently facing right at the beginning by this parking lot, as you can see on the map there. So we're going to go right here next to the creek. Dr. Mason.
So this loop that you see that's highlighted in the image right now on the trail map, that's the whole loop that has been restored as part of phase 1. This includes the main trail as well as this creekside trail, and we're now standing on the creekside trail. The intention of the creekside trail is that while it goes along the creek, but it also provides people access to the creek. A lot of people come down here in the summer. During COVID, this was especially popular to get access to the water in order to cool off. We have stone benches where people can sit down. We're using natural materials. So the tree branches there are to warn bikers that come through the area, not to go over the edge. So we really did a lot with regard to using natural materials in this space. And again, that trail is completely ADA accessible and runs all along the creek. And I don't know if there's anything else. And you can see the front connector there, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Yes. And then also here is an example, another way of navigating other than just the trail map. You would just be able to click an icon. For example, I'll click on this one. This is about 4 Mile Creek, and actually comes up with an info bubble that tells you a little bit more about it. And then here actually is a spot that you can navigate to, and this will show directly in the middle of the creek here. And also one thing I'd like to mention, we were able to embed, we took 360 videos and we were able to embed them within this. So you can watch videos here of the creek actually flowing. And you got to change the quality. Sometimes it likes to go to the lowest, but it's actually 8K. So it is quite good quality. And you can hear it as well. I'm not sure if it comes through on your end, but you can hear the water flowing. So that's that one. And next we're going to jump over here to the trail intersection of Creekside and 4 Mile, which is right here, right underneath of the Bayfront connector.
And this is where, so you see the Bayfront connector above us, and you can see at the very top of the image here, a pipe coming off. Actually, you can now see 2 pipes coming off of the Bayfront connector. Those pipes are drainage pipes for the Bayfront connector, so that as rain hits the Bayfront, it goes into this trough and then it's deposited down these pipes. And you can see that it's a pretty big distance for that rain to fall into 4 Mile Gorge. So not only is it carrying all of like the oil and tire rubber, anything off of the Bayfront, but then it's falling this huge distance so that by the time it hits the gorge, it's got a lot of velocity to it. So one of the design elements that we incorporated here is this dry creek bed. The intention of this dry creek bed is that it becomes filled when there is a rain event. It collects that rain that's coming off of the Bayfront connector. It's all shale, so it's less damaging to the vegetation. And then as the water flows through this shale bed, it helps to purify that water again before it goes into 4 Mile Creek. So this restoration effort is not just about preserving the gorge trail itself, but actually thinking about the whole ecology of the region and doing things that we can to protect the creek as well as the other flora and fauna that exist here. Right here, good, yes, the boardwalk. So this front area near the Cooper Road Trailhead has a number of wetland areas. And so over these wetland areas, we've created bamboo boardwalks. So they don't actually look bamboo, but they are. And they're raised up on steel platforms so that, again, you can walk through this wetland area, but minimize the human impact onto the wetland, allowing the wetland to exist below this boardwalk species. And then if we turn the other way, this is actually where phase 1 ends. And we are intersecting where phase 2 will begin. So you can see the mud there, not part of the restoration that has been done so far. So we do actually have funding for phase 2, and this summer we're starting the discussions on exactly what phase 2 will include, the timeline, all of that. And phase 2 will take us from underneath the Bayfront connector to the intersection with Trout Run.
And I'm going to click there now to what is currently here.
And so this is the intersection at Trout Run. You can see we currently have installed there this culvert, basically this giant pipe. It is deteriorating. In addition, it tends to get blocked by branches, which creates its own erosion issues. So phase 3 of this project will be removing that culvert and putting a nice handy, ADA accessible bridge right there. Unfortunately, that is where the ADA accessibility of the gorge will end, just simply because it gets too steep beyond Trout Run in order to create, the level that you would need. So we're actually going to put stairs in at this point. Again, to prevent that erosion and to allow for easier kind of mobility for people that are able to move beyond the intersection with Trout Run.
It looks like we have good time. Do you want to click on the middle of this section as well?
Sure, yeah. And you can see some of the, Marcus has done a great job here. Anytime you see the little yellow triangle with the exclamation point, he's added basically kind of these notations where you can see the erosion issues that we were talking about. So you see how the water digs into the ground and is slowly eroding, basically the fauna, but also eroding the trail itself. And so those are those kind of erosion issues that the restoration is trying to fix. So a lot of care is taken as to kind of the angle of the platform, where water is going to flow, and how you kind of spread that water out over space so that it doesn't create those deep gashes and leading to the soil loss that then that soil runs into 4 Mile Creek.
All right, so then the next one we're going to go to is another trailhead. So we began all the way down here, actually on the north end, also counterintuitive. This is the bottom of the picture is the north, but the northern trailhead is Cooper Road. And now we're heading up to the second one that we're going to look at today is Prishak Lot or Prishak. I'm not too sure.
Prishak, yeah, I think it's Prishak. Yeah, so so there are a total of 3 trailheads to the Wintergreen Gorge. The Cooper Road is the main trailhead, and as most kind of tourists would be accessing. But we have 2 on campus, the Prishak Lot in Ohio, which is up near Trip Hall and Ohio resident halls. So this is the pre-shack lot trailhead. This is right next to the science building where I make home, and where we do a lot of our starting points for a lot of our beach or our creek cleanups events. So this is the pre-shack lot. I like to tell people that, you know, if they arrive to the Cooper Road trailhead and all of the parking spaces are taken, please make your way onto campus. We now have visitor parking. You don't have to get permits. You can park and you can visit the gorge through one of the other trailheads. Especially, you know, I like to mention this for people who maybe don't have kids, don't need the ADA accessible. These are really easy these other two trailheads are really great access points into the gorge. Leaving that Cooper Road trailhead for, you know, kind of really focused on the people who maybe need it the most. So when I come to campus, you know, we tend to park in the pre-shack lot and and hike from there. So this is one of our other trailheads. And then I don't remember, were you going to say anything else here, Marcus?
I don't believe so. No, I don't think so. But I will say, yeah, down here when I was at the Cooper Road trailhead taking pictures, you all, when you're looking through it, will notice that there are no people in the pictures, and that took a lot of time because it was like every single time I'd be ready to take a picture, another group's coming by and they're looking at the camera. So what's that thing, you know? So, and I was obviously very bubbly and I was talking about it, but it did take quite a while. When I got to this trailhead, there was nobody there. It was quite quick, and my car's parked right over there, so it was quite nice having some space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very popular spot. So you'll notice that the stairs go from that trout run up to the pre-shack lot. So that's where the steepest kind of incline of the overall trail is, in terms of the trail itself. So that's where the stairs will take you to here, and beyond this, it's not so steep that we need stairs, but unfortunately it is, I don't think it will be, it's still too steep to be considered ADA accessible.
And now we're going to hop up. The other trailhead she had mentioned was the Ohio Lot trailhead right here, right by, as you see here, these are our residence halls, and that's the new residence hall, Trip Hall. And here's Devil's Backbone. So this is a pretty cool spot on campus where you can overlook the whole of the gorge.
This is the highest part of the gorge. It's 250 feet deep at this point. So yeah, this is a favorite spot for anybody hiking the gorge, is to get here. Eventually what we will have a really nice overlook here that will be all wooden and will actually kind of take you out over the gorge. For right now, you're just you're witnessing it from the trail itself. Mm-hmm. Marcus, you have some interesting things to say.
Yeah, a couple of things. So first, in terms of the technology, this is a super cool feature that you kind of saw a little bit here, but I'll showcase. So to begin with, each of these pictures with this camera, we're actually able to get up to 12K resolution. So that's why it looks pretty good. If we did anything like 4K, when you're considering 360, it's just not enough. It looks very, very pixelated. So being able to get to 12K was really, really helpful. But even that, at times when you're at a spot like this, where you're under trees, but you're looking out at something that is bright, it's really hard to get the exposure levels right. So there's this really cool type of photo that we're able to take with the platform we're using, called an adaptive HDR. And it actually adjusts the exposure level at any given point so that it's optimized just like the human eye does. So as I'm looking out here, you can see really, really quite nicely into the distance. But as I begin to turn around and I want to look here, it's dark at first, but then wait a second, and it'll adjust. And now you're able to see wherever you'd like. And when you turn back around once again, it's going to be quite bright out there, as you see, but then it'll adjust slowly until you're now able to see completely. And one other thing, while you're here, we're saying this is the highest point. It looks a little bit, it's hard to really see, put it in perspective. So something we figured we would do, we were actually able to get a couple drone shots, a drone video that I will play. And this is the perspective in, and just for a little bit more perspective here, we are right here. That is the overlook, this little corner. And we're going to fly in towards it. How's the quality coming through? Is it good?
Yeah, it looks good. It's a little choppy, but it's not pixelated. It's beautiful.
Oh no. When you watch it on your own, it'll come through a lot better, hopefully. So that was a little ways in, flying all the way from out once again, just to show you once more how far out here, and that is us way at the top. So there's quite a lot to the gorge, and it is quite a ways down. To think that this was all not like this at one point, and it was because of a glacier. It's crazy.
Carved by, yeah.
It's all carved
water.
by water, just
Yeah.
by water, which is crazy.
Just by water. Water is such an amazing, I'm a water geek. Yeah, it flows and it's calm, and yet it's so incredibly powerful that it can, the Wintergreen Gorge or the Grand Canyon,
Yep. It looks like we're pretty good on time, right?
Yep.
Okay. So then if we're here, we didn't know how far we would get, so it was a little bit hard to time it. But we did mention a couple times the trip. So I figured we have this here. You're able to click on these kinds of place marks, come up with another smaller map that's a little more centralized. So that's Devil's Backbone right there, the edge. Here's the trailhead. Just to show you, we have all this signage, which is actually it's fairly new. Actually, a lot of the gorge development, I've only been here 3 years. So in that time, I mean, so much of it has developed, which is awesome. But that's the trailhead right there. And then also, I'm going to hop over here towards Tripp Hall. And this is our newest residence hall, facing the wrong direction. There you go.
Greenest residence hall too, in terms of, kind of green building technologies. So I think it's a LEED platinum building. If anybody knows the LEED standards, so it's pretty remarkable residence hall.
Mm-hmm. And it's also remarkable. Not only do you have a nice patio here, but you're just a short walk away, right over there, to the Devil's Backbone, and plenty of trails to walk and everything. So it is quite amazing.
Absolutely.
Another part of campus we were able to showcase was Wilson over here. So this is a picnic grove on campus that a lot of student organizations use. We've had like s'more events and things like that. They have a nice fireplace. So they also there's a parking lot right there. Parking is super great. And actually this is flat enough that it could be, I would say ADA accessible.
ADA accessible.
Right on in. And here is the actual shelter. Got a nice fire pit there.
During COVID, it was great. We had some events out here. We did sustainability series. So we'd have we had some, when it was warm enough, we had some speaking events where we invited people to campus, and because we were outside, we were able to do some really nice speaking events out at the picnic grove.
Mm-hmm. And what is cool, I mean, you're under foliage here, but you're so close to everything. I mean, you're really right here, on campus. And actually, just to circle back to what Kristen had said, speaking about the history, this was the original home right here, this whole area. So that's the original house there. That was Mary Behrend's studio, and that was actually their barn in Turnhill, Turnbull, not Turnhill. So that whole area is like the oldest part of campus, the beginning of campus. And now, we have a lot more going on, but also spaces like this that have stayed, relatively the same, which is quite nice. And another thing to mention, here's the shelter, but right outside of the shelter, this back end over there, is actually a little bit of an overlook of the McConnell's Creek or Trout Run. Who knows what it's called? Multiple names. But you're literally right there. You have a nice view, and then you've got parking and a shelter.
Yeah.
And then I think the other two spots that we were going to highlight, these are not relating to the gorge per se, but they are spots on campus that we thought were going to be important. The first one, we know that each campus has a Nittany lion, has a statue of that. So we wanted to showcase ours, because if you haven't come to Erie, if you haven't come to our campus of Behrend, you might not have had the opportunity to see it, but we're definitely proud of it. We love it. So that's right here, this lion logo on the trail map. And we'll hop right over to here. And that's our line. And what is pretty cool about it, through the VAR lab, we were able to get LiDAR scans of this. LiDAR is laser scanning with like millions and millions of points. It's like crazy. I don't know how it works either. But then you press this right here, this 3D model, and it actually comes up with the model.
Which apparently you said that you could like download this and then like 3D print it if somebody wanted it.
Yep. You could download it, use it as a 3D model in any sort of like 3D imagery, or you could even send it straight to your 3D printer and have it printed up.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And there's plenty more out of the VAR lab that is coming. Things like this. Actually, we were speaking, Dr. Shelton and I, Chris, about like this one. We love it, but we all already know a way to make it higher quality, and we're always striving for better. So it was almost like, we had to cut it, for this event, we just got to get this on there, but give us another year and you will see something much, much better than even this. So we're excited for all that.
More to come.
So yeah, that's our Nittany Lion. And another cool thing, mentioning what is coming. This is actually our one of our athletics facilities on campus. Another one is being built here shortly, Erie Hall. But this is our older one, but it's actually quite new and quite nice. They've got like a huge gym right there. They've got like an aerobics room. They actually got an indoor swimming pool, which is nice because it gets cold here and you do not want to swim outside. And then right here is signifying that this is coming soon. So if you get a chance, if you're interested, just click on that and you can actually sign up and stay in the loop about this, so we can keep you up to date on that, on other things. If you're interested in things like the scanning of the Nittany Lion, if you're interested in tours in general, if you want to see more on the Wintergreen Gorge, definitely take the opportunity to sign up. And then one last spot. How are we on time? Awesome. One last spot is the sunset. This is like I would say the top of campus, right? I mean, pretty much the highest point.
Probably the highest point, aside from being maybe if you live in Trip Hall on the 4th floor, but I think it's probably the highest point on campus.
Yeah.
Publicly accessible.
Yeah. So this is not on it is not on this map, but it's actually a little farther over here towards whatever direction that is. Now I'm confused with north, south, whatever. Towards the left side
East.
of this map, it would be over there. But this is the parking garage. At the very top, you have a beautiful view of sunsets. And while we're here, I'd like to mention, as you see this strip along the horizon here, that's actually Lake Erie. So we're that close. And if any of you have gotten the opportunity to visit Erie, hopefully you have, I'm sure you've heard of Presque Isle State Park. And here on top of the parking garage on Behrend, we can actually see right out here. It's going to be a little bit tough. Oh, it's a little pixelated. But this right there is the tip of Presque Isle. And then when you're here, you see this strip along the outside of the horizon. That's Lake Erie. Then there's that strip of Presque Isle. And then that's the Bay of Erie. So you see everything. I would say not even just the tallest and best view of campus, but probably even Erie, because you can see quite a bit. And actually you see the old smokestacks from the Hammer Mill paper factory, which again was the paper factory that the Behrend family had owned. So yeah, they lived, that was the paper factory, and they lived a little bit of a ways out this way. And again, this is the adaptive thing, or the adaptive HDR function to it, where when you're looking at the sunset, it has this in focus, but as you look away and you want to look down here, this will brighten up and it'll give you the opportunity to see around here as well.
And that's the Engineering and Business School, Black School of Business, and the engineering building, right?
Yes. Yep. Yes. The Burke Center.
The Burke
yeah,
Center, thank you.
this houses both the engineering and over here, the business, which is one of only a couple in the country, from what I've heard, that has both a school of business and a school of engineering in the same building. And that really helps with collaboration quite a bit. And also in terms of engineering here, a lot of this left side of the building is dominated by engineering labs, things that are very, very high tech, and I have no idea how they work. But this one right here, especially this whole row of windows, is actually the plastics lab, and it's like one of the biggest in the country from my understanding, or one of the biggest academic ones, and a lot of companies get to use it as well. So that's quite cool. Yeah, and just over that direction, there's actually a business park called Knowledge Park. So we have a lot of industry that's there, that's located. They really love the collaboration with the students here, getting to use our research. And actually, we are located currently, I am sitting in Knowledge Park, because that is where I got to think of what direction I turn. That's where the VAR lab is located. So we got a building here, which is really cool for us because we get to be close to the campus. We get to be close to students. We get to also be close to industry people who are like, hey, we have this idea of something, but we have no idea how to execute. So they come to us with suggestions and whatnot. So
there we go.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you for sharing. We do have some questions that are coming in.
Awesome.
The first question, what is the elevation at Behrend? It appears hilly on the slides, pics of the trail, etc. So
not that high, that much of an elevation. That's a good question. Does anybody know?
I would say it is built on a hill.
Yes.
As we entered the Cooper Road trailhead, you're close to the creek. And if you're all the way up to the Devil's Backbone, that's 250
feet above the creek. So, I mean, yeah, probably 500 feet elevation or something. We're not, I mean, above the lake, I don't know what we are relative to sea level, but not that highly elevated, but it is very hilly campus. To live here, get a good workout, right, Marcus? I imagine.
Yeah. Well, Erie in general is actually a pretty flat area. So I came from Pittsburgh. I'm not scared of hills. But when I got here, it was like everywhere is flat, except they decided to find a hill and build a campus on it. And now I have to walk up it every single day. So yeah, the campus in general is on a slope. In terms of the gorge is kind of a slope in and of itself, just because it's been eroded away after so many thousands of years. And just for a point of reference, again, you start down here and you're really next to the creek. And as you make your way up, the Prishjack lot is about halfway, I would say, at like the halfway point, right after the steepest part of the trail. But then this continues to be sloping upwards until you're way up here at Devil's Backbone, and your view is this one. So
50 feet.
Going from way at the bottom next to the creek all the way to the top here. And I think, Dr. Mason, what is the size of this cliff again? I've heard it. I
thought it was 258 feet.
Okay.
Deepest point. So, yeah, that's what I think it is. And the trail markers, I was noticing on that when you brought up the trail map, the trail markers tell you the distance to Lake Erie. So at Cooper Road, you're 2 miles exactly from Lake Erie, just to give people perspective. So when we're looking out at that sunset, we're looking at about 3 miles away from Lake Erie.
Yeah. Which is quite.
All right, so another question we have is, was there a debate and discussion prior to the parking lot? It seems a little self-defeating, maybe, as we're trying to preserve a natural area, and then we create some paved parking lots. So Dr. Mason, can you address that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always a balance, right? The parking lot is there for safety, because we do have people coming to this space and they need a safe place to park, especially with the Creekside Trail. You have a lot of people who bring their kids, little kids, getting out of cars on a road with a steep hill and a turn. And I can't believe that there weren't more injuries, honestly. So there we balanced there with it's a cost benefit analysis, right? The pavement itself is a porous pavement, and as we said, there was a lot of thought put into. We created the rain garden in the center of the parking lot to help with the water flow. We didn't point it out here, but behind that trash can icon is actually another rain garden that helps with water coming off of Cooper Road and before it makes its way to 4 Mile Creek. So while, yeah, we had to take down, it was less than 10 trees. I think it was all of 6 trees. And those trees, many of which were older and kind of close to the end of their life anyway, but we did use a lot of that material. So when, if you're walking the trail, you will see branches taken down. We mentioned when we were at the creek side, because there's a little bit of a cliff there, we used branches from that as part of the restoration. So it is a little bit of a cost benefit analysis, but I think it makes a whole lot of sense to give people a safe space in order to preserve this natural and access this natural space. Yeah.
We have a question, what is going to be at the coming soon location? So this might be a part Dr. Mason question, a part Marcus question, because some of the part coming soon is phase 2, and some of the coming soon is what we hope, what Marcus hopes, what Dr. Shelton hopes to develop in this new virtual tour.
Dr. Mason, you want to go first with the physical trail once again?
The physical trail, right? So extending from the Bayfront to Trout Run will really just be a continuation of that ADA accessible trail that we've already started. We will have more signage going up. We didn't put up enough signage with regard to pack it in, pack out, although most people are very respectful of the space, but we want to have more signage on that. We have a few issues with regard to the dry creek bed that we're going to amend as part of phase 2. Phase 3 will be that bridge that is $1 million bridge going across Trout Run. And then we will continue on up to Devil's Backbone. I mean, we're looking at probably 5-6 phases for this overall restoration effort. And, people ask me about timeline all the time. I'm guessing 10 years timeline just because of the time it takes to apply for grants. And at every time when we finish a phase, we're looking at what we've done. We're looking at how people are using the space and adjusting before we do the next phase. So phase 1 technically completed in September, but we won't be starting kind of construction on phase 2 probably until like a year from now.
One question on that for you, actually. What is something that a patron of the Wintergreen Gorge or someone who loves nature like this is able to do to help push things forward? Should they call a senator? Should they send a letter and say, hey, this is something that is needed?
No, to be honest, the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, so PADCNR, has been extremely supportive of our efforts. So I'm glad you kind of mentioned that, because I think that's really important to note, is that, basically you're looking at campus provides some funding towards this, no doubt. A lot of the funding is coming from taxpayer dollars because this is a publicly accessible space. But we do have a Friends of the Wintergreen Gorge group. And if people want to, it's on Facebook. If people want to join that, that's a great way to kind of keep informed as to what's happening within the gorge. And we also, through the alumni, have a Friends of the Wintergreen Gorge if people want to donate funding. That funding will help for, things like signage. I don't know that we're going to get, I've mentioned that I would love to have an endowed position of somebody whose job really is just kind of like with Asbury Woods or other spaces, Presque Isle, that creates events and, is really about kind of maintenance and access and education around the Wintergreen Gorge. So if somebody wants to endow a position for us, I'll take it.
Do you know how long it takes to hike the full trail?
Okay, well, I want Marcus and Chris to have a chance to answer that coming soon. But to hike the entire trail, I mean, I'm not in, great shape, but, I think probably I can do, it's only it's like a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles total. So I'm like 45 minutes, an hour, it's not that long. I don't know if Marcus or Chris, if you've had a different thought on that.
I don't know. I would like to believe I'm in shape, but sometimes the hills in there, they make you question it. Yeah.
All right, coming soon, guys. Coming soon when they see those little coming soon signs.
Yes. So with that, referring to Wintergreen Gorge only first, the tour with Wintergreen Gorge, we would like to, for this first one, I was able to get spots all around the gorge, but some of them not as detailed as I would like, or not the highest quality as I would have liked. So this lower section here by Cooper Road in phase 1 is pretty much good. I would say that is complete. And a big thing with creating tours like this, as you will have noticed potentially when you click here, there's a smart transition where it will jump you forward, and it feels like that. If you have it too far apart, it feels a lot less immersive when you jump, or sometimes if you have it too close, it feels like redundant. So getting that perfect distance in the gorge, it would take a lot of pictures to get there. So far in this tour, there's like 90 something, 93, I believe the number is at the end. So I want to continue all the way phase 2. If I could get all the way up towards the Prishjack, and then more along this whole section here was not photographed like whatsoever. I wasn't able to get to that. So just more of this, and really more of it that's good quality, and that is a short enough distance in between that it really feels immersive as you click through. And then that's for the Wintergreen Gorge. For tours in general, we're actually putting together a tour for Knowledge Park as well, which is the business park that I'm sitting in. We're going to be putting together a tour similarly to this, where you'll be able to click around the walking trails and click in between the buildings, and you'll be able to see what businesses are in each building. We're also doing some academic tours for the campus. So for the different schools, showcasing the inside of their labs and actually being able to click down the hallways and learn more about that. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot coming. That's just the tour side. In terms of like embedded content, we're getting more into drone photography as well. So we'll be able to get really, really cool shots around campus that applies everywhere. We're also getting into some photogrammetry as well. So getting 3D models made that you can actually, like the Nittany Lion, but on a much bigger scale, where we might actually be able to scan the entirety of the Devil's Backbone like cliff. And you'll actually be able to see that and zoom in on it and kind of look at it at an angle and kind of put it in perspective a little bit better. So yeah, there's definitely a lot coming. There's a lot coming soon. So click there, sign up, put your email down, and we will make sure to keep you in the loop.
Another question, a couple questions are the same. Can you bike on the trails?
Yes, this is biking and hiking trail. We don't allow horses, even though that's where the trail started. It's not a horseback riding trail, but there is biking and hiking. Both are allowed.
I have to ask.
This is a question. Go ahead, Marcus.
I have to ask, is that a rule that was assumed, or did someone actually call asking if they could bring their horse?
I don't know that we've ever fielded a question specifically. I just thought I would mention it.
So we have a question that maybe Marcus can pull up is, can you show what the gorge looks like in the fall?
Absolutely.
That I'm going to ask the second question. Are classes taught there that incorporate the gorge as part of the curriculum?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt, especially in the biology and environmental science majors. They are out in the gorge all the time, looking at the flora, the fauna, learning how do you assess a forest, how do you measure water quality. This is an open lab. So kind of one of the things that I would like to do kind of is more on that educational kind of side of things. as well as, kind of creating almost like Pokemon Go, like, you can go collect like virtual coins by hitting certain points within the gorge. I think would be great, kind of, it'd just be a great thing that, say that people are homeschooling their kids can come out. I want to do that too, more with the Arboretum. We just finished remapping our campus Arboretum, and that is now on our campus map as a layer. It was a year-long project. It was not as well mapped. I mean, I had no idea kind of how bad it was until we started engaging in this, but I would like to add in some kind of adventures around people exploring our campus Arboretum, exploring the Wintergreen Gorge, get more people coming to campus for those kind of activities. It's such an amazing campus, and I think that that's really, we are an asset to the community, and doing more to connect that, I think, is really important and make it fun. These are great pictures, Marcus.
Thanks, Kristen. So yeah, this is actually referring to pictures. Yeah, we have a couple different seasons here. We're going to be getting more of the spring. We weren't able to gather enough photos from what we had. But there are 2 other seasons, autumn and winter. And also we do have the flora and the fauna, some of the different things that you see here, like crawfish, things in the creek. I don't know exactly where we found that, but so there's quite a bit here, and there's actually an owl, which is adorable. And you hear him hooting quite a bit up by Trip Hall. And then winter is also another one. I love the gorge during the winter. So we don't have as many pictures, I believe, of the winter, but it really is something special. You get to see farther because there's fewer leaves. So it really puts the vastness in perspective a little bit more. And the creek looks really, really cool. The way, like, looking at water as it's half frozen and like the top's frozen, but it's still running underneath. It's very, very interesting. So yeah, I take the opportunity to look through here. There's some good photos on there.
That's in the photo albums tab, located at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, there you go. All right.
So we referenced a lot of different resources. So those should be available in your chat. And we'll also share those links with you at the end, like about in a week, we'll send you an email with those things. I can also share a PowerPoint slide with some of the links here as well. But I want to thank Dr. Mason, Dr. Shelton, especially Marcus for the hours and hours of time he devoted to capturing these 360-degree images. I want to thank all of you for joining us and learning about what makes Penn State Behrend gorgeous. I hope that we have inspired you to visit the links that we share with you, maybe even come and visit the Wintergreen Gorge for yourself, visit Erie, and visit Penn State Behrend. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Should we do like the "We are Penn State"? No, we're not going to end with that.
We always end with that.
We are.
Have a good day. Thanks for joining.